check out this intercooler I got for the Crown Vic. Look at this unit. Oh yeah. I'm just kidding. That's not for the Crown Vic. That's for something else. But today, what I'd like to do is, I haven't touched... My vent slipped. Today, what I'd like to do is, I haven't touched this thing in weeks at all. Like, the way I left it from the last video is the way it's been sitting here. So, what I'd like to do today is actually figure out what my oil pressure is with the gauge. What I have is a modified, let's see, okay, so I have a gauge from O'Reilly's, and there's a plug like this on the Godzilla engine, and I'll show you exactly where it's at on this second engine here. So this plug here is right by the oil filter. That's how it was with the O-ring on it. And what I did was I bought a oil pressure gauge from O'Reilly's. They came with an adapter, but it wasn't small enough, so I took this piece to a machine shop and had them cut the threads to exactly what that plug is and put the O-ring on. So this will now screw into the engine like that, and then I just run the line somewhere, you know, as far as possible away from the header, run it up, and then I'll be able to see what the gauge will show, because I am curious to see what the actual pressure is. It's supposed to be 9 psi at the minimum, but I don't know that. I'd like to confirm. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. So thanks to Daystar Machining for making this piece for me so I can check the pressure. So this is the kit that I bought from O'Reilly's. It was like 20 bucks. I don't know if these gauges are any good. I never had to buy a gauge for any reason before. And what I didn't like is that it came with plastic line, and I'm gonna be very close to the header. So what I did was I bought this kit here off Amazon, and this is copper tubing, which should hold heat better, and I'm most likely I'm gonna put a heat shield over it as well. And so this is the adapter here that I was talking about that I had to get remachined to fit the threads on a Godzilla engine. And yeah, it worked out, and that O-ring's gonna hold it. It shouldn't be a problem. So let's get this thing installed. One thing I'm not sure is how far this is gonna get me. I'm hoping at least somewhere on the wiper cowl, but we'll see. I'll take it as far as I can. I just want to have some kind of gauge on there just to see. So what you do is you put this nut on here like this, and then this little ferrule goes on like that. So when you tighten it, it just cuts into the copper and seals it. I don't want to get it too tight because it's copper and it's like very flimsy, but I got it tight. Supposedly it's only 9 psi at idle. Max is 95 psi. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna route this to go up. Why is it? Man, that spins. I don't like this copper either, but it's better than plastic. So I'm gonna route this along this transmission lines and then up, and then see how far I get. Doesn't look like I'm going far with this, honestly, but let's see. So it actually ended up going pretty high up there. I just zip tied it to to the lines and then the dipstick for the transmission, and it went up pretty far. I didn't put any insulation on it for now. I will do that later. This is just temporarily. I'm most likely not even gonna need this line. I mean, I know it's good to have, but I'm not even sure if it's gonna work or not, so I'll take care of it later. I mean, I don't hate it, but I just don't think I want to put little holes right there in the hood. I think it would be cool temporarily to just mount this sucker right here, but then I'll have to deal with the holes. I am cutting a hole in the hood anyways, but then I don't want to mess with the hood on the outer edge, at least at the moment. Maybe at a different time, but alright, so the gauge has been temporarily installed. This will work for now, but I did realize that this gauge is going to be hard to tell 9 psi because, you know, the first reading is 25, the line in between that, so I'm not sure how that's going to work, but doesn't matter, it's hooked up, and we should be reading something. Like, as long as that arrow goes up a little bit, I think that's going to be a good sign that there's some oil pressure, and I can idle it for more than 3 seconds. Now, as far as the hood, I was going to remove it, but then I'm like, why am I going to remove it? Because I'm eventually going to cut it anyways. So I'm thinking just to slice this out like this and get this junk out of the way and see how much lower the hood will go just by doing that. Because right now, this is hitting the intake here. So I'm thinking that just by cutting that out a little bit, we'll be very close to shutting the hood, well, closer than this. So we're gonna be more than halfway, and then we'll cut the hood open, you know, as much as we need here, and maybe that Amazon vent will work. Who knows? We're gonna definitely try it out right now. That, you know, that vent is looking fly, so let's try that right now. Oh yeah. Weight reduction. All right, let's just see how much lower the hood goes after modifying the hood a little bit. Look at that. So I just need to figure out a way to see where I actually need to cut the hood open, because I don't want to cut too much, but I don't want to cut not enough either. So where it's hitting the hood is like right here, so I guess I just need to do this move here, I think. Maybe if I put the vent on the hood and just trace it. No, the vent's gonna be way too small. I can already see the vent's gonna be too small. But I think the vent would be a good start. Just put the vent on, trace it, and then cut it slightly smaller. Let's try that. All right, let's see what we're working with. I'm gonna cut it on the inside line just so there's room for a 3M tape, just in case this vent will work. If not, I can get a bigger vent, I'm sure. This is the first one I picked up on Amazon a long time ago. I didn't even know if this whole thing is gonna go far, but it's going far, I guess. It's going all the way. So I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut it on this line and then on the inside line and see what that looks like. We got a hole. All right. We got a hole in the hood. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so now, well, we're hitting some over there too. Oh man, I was hoping that this vent would work. So I'm not clearing the throttle body yet, so I need to cut this almost all the way here, and then I need to cut back some too because it's hitting the intake. So I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark, and well, I gotta cut this all the way because I'm gonna have a hose running from here. Right now I'm hitting right here on the hood still, but I guess I need to cut further because I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this just yet. That's gonna go somewhere, but all right, let's cut more. Well then, things got out of hand really quickly. I started drawing, and then that vent for sure is not gonna work now, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it more, cut it on this line. That was just a sketch. So cut it more here, so then I have room for the pipe. I was gonna do something weird, but I think I'm just gonna round it off so it sort of makes sense, like an oval, and then it should close. Right now, if I slam it, it'll probably close. So maybe I should hold off on cutting this and just cut that out more because I'm still hitting the intake there. And I was hitting something over here. I couldn't figure out what it was, and then I figured it out. Dipstick, and I snapped it off, but now it's not hitting it. So I should have probably just drilled a hole for the dipstick. That would have been cool, but luckily I have another dipstick on that engine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this more and leave this alone. I'll cut this because it looks weird. Somebody come get this cutting wheel from me before I cut a bigger hole. But look at that. First time hood is closed with a Godzilla. I mean, the hole is not bad. This hose is in the way because that's not the right hose, but it's not hitting anywhere else. So I think it's good. I'm gonna hold off on cutting this anymore because I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the throttle body. I might even put the original one back on, which sticks up even more, so then I'll have enough room to just elbow it down. I'm not worried about it. But this, I mean, even if the hole is too big, this is not the end of the world. This is not the rarest hood to find. I'm sure there's tons of them, especially in white, and this hood was already like peeling and it had dents, especially in the part that I cut out. It had like little dings here and there, so that's why I did it. Otherwise I would have probably removed it and tried to save it, but it's not a perfect hood by any means. So now the hole is here and the hood is closed. That's it's a pretty good step, I guess. It's not getting tons of stuff done, but just to see the hood is closed is already like, wow, it's almost close to driving. But then you see a drive shaft is laying over there, and the steering is not connected and things like that. So there's still a lot to do, but that's how these things go. Everything takes time. So right now I'm gonna try to start it, and check the oil pressure and see what we got. Fingers crossed it's something. If I see the needle go up at least close to like in between the 25 and 0, then I'm gonna let it idle. If it idles on its own, because you know, from the last video I only ran it for about 3 seconds. I started it like 3 times, but I only ran it for 3 seconds at a time because I'm not sure about the oil pressure. Also, I do have the oil pressure sensor connected, and if I have it connected right, I should be reading oil pressure on the scan tool. So I'm gonna hook that up too and see if I read any kind of oil pressure through the sensor, which again, the sensor is different than the Godzilla. Godzilla sensor has 3, it's a 3-wire connector. It's back here for the oil pressure, and the 4.6 only had the 1-wire sensor. So I did save that sensor somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. This is the 4.6 sensor for the oil pressure. This is just a fitting I was trying to modify to maybe put the sensor on the Godzilla back here somehow, which I might still do. I don't know. I mean, that's why I saved that sensor, because I don't know how that's gonna go. But look at that cutting and chiseling and breaking dipsticks. That's awesome. But yeah, that's looking good. If I can find a bigger vent or something that's gonna cover this hole up, that would be awesome. I know they have like the cowl hoods and stuff like that, but they're probably like $1,000. I'm not trying to do all that right now. So that vent's not gonna work for sure. Maybe I can make one or just get a bigger vent. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I like the hole in the hood. And I just eyeballed it. Like, I didn't even measure from side to side. I just kind of went from with the Ford logo, boom, down the middle. I don't know. It looks like it's almost straight. And I'll clean it up later with a grinder. Not worried about it. I am worried to see if it will open. Hopefully it will open. Yes. Okay. Because if I disconnected that cable, I would have to do something weird, but it opens, which is good. And now it holds up on its own because it's weight reduction in there. It's amazing. Awesome. All right, let's put I'm gonna put the battery in. I'm gonna get rid of all this wiring. This is all that wiring for like the lights and all that on the cop car. I'm gonna get rid of all that. Maybe I'll tuck it in. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna put the battery in, booster up to it, and try to crank it. Let's see what happens. So the thing is, I don't see oil pressure anywhere on the options on my scan tool, which is weird. I went through the whole list. There's like 200 things I can look at. Oil pressure is not one of them. Maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. But I'm gonna go by this gauge for now and see how it does. So let me crank it. Fingers crossed, nothing blows up. Let's do it. So, doesn't look like this gauge went up any at all, but it was idling not bad. It was idling high, but it wasn't bad. I'm afraid to run it too long without knowing if there's oil pressure. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that plug is not for oil pressure lines, you know? Like, what is this plug for? What is that plug for? I don't know. I'm sure I can look it up, but I don't know at the moment. I just figured you pull the plug, it's right by the oil filter. This is the solenoid that regulates the flow. You would have some oil pressure there, but it's not showing. So, hopefully there's no oil pouring on the floor. Nope. Looks dry. Just to see if at least the throttle works.
Well, it's just a little backfire.
Dude, it idles like almost 2,000 RPM.
Yeah.
And speedometer showing 20. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it runs at all, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, long story short, there is no oil coming through this line, so I'm not sure about the plug where I connected the line for oil pressure. I don't know if it should have oil coming out or not, but it's not right now at idle. So am I getting any oil pressure? There's a solenoid here. Is it completely not letting oil through? Someone answered this in the comments. Also, if I remove the front cover and lock out the VCT, will that give me 95 psi oil pressure for sure? Or is that just something people made up? I don't know these answers, you know, at the moment. So as of right now, I'm not gonna continue. I'm gonna do more research. The hole in the hood looks good. I'm gonna do more research, and then in the next video, hopefully take this whole front cover off, get to the VCT and block it out. I have the tools, I have the block. All I have to do is just take it apart. Once I do that, I can reassemble everything here and even put coolant, put the belts on, put the coolant on, or put the coolant in, put the fan back in. And the biggest issue I'm still having is, as far as driving this thing, is the steering. I have to figure out a way to extend that steering, get it past the header. What's happening is the steering knuckles right here, and it's the header's in the way. So if maybe I can just cut the steering rod, extend it, because there's room here for the knuckle. So as long as I can clear this, so maybe I'll cut it, extend it, do something. I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to be welding, but if I have to, I'll weld it together and that'll be it. So if I can connect the steering and assemble all of this, figure out the oil pressure. I'm most concerned about the oil pressure, because if I don't see any oil coming out of this line, I'm not running this engine for very long, because things could go bad. Once I can figure out the oil pressure situation, if somebody can confirm that this engine has 9 psi at idle, that's the minimum, and 95 psi at the maximum, if I block out the VCT, then that's what I'll do. I'll just take this whole front end apart, block it out, and go from there. And then I'll worry about the steering. As far as everything else goes, I should be able to at least drive it forward and backward a couple feet. That's all I want for right now. After that, we'll take it further. But that is it for this video. Hopefully this wasn't boring, because it was kind of boring for me. Not much got done, but it is what it is. We'll get more done in the next video. Later.